Hello everybody, welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. I'm here with the Natural Progressive, taking time out of her day from beautiful Utah to let us know about some issues that are happening. So Chris, how you doing today?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So you sent me some articles because I remember the Tuesday night of the midterm elections, I did a super chat and you were saying one of the things that passed, because we were having a discussion about a lot of progressive legislation has passed around the country. And in a lot of states, they passed overwhelmingly. Like we talked about, Florida passed, nonviolent ex-cons can vote now, which is a pretty progressive thing. And you had said that medical marijuana has passed in the state of Utah, which is a big deal because Utah is a very, very red and conservative state. So now you sent me some articles about how the LDS, which is the Latter-day Saints, are now trying to undermine it. So you want to explain to us exactly what's going on?
Yeah, it actually happened right before the election.
Okay.
Because they came out in opposition to that initiative. Mm-hmm. And then they got together with the legislature and wrote a compromise bill before we even had a chance to vote on it. And we weren't voting on the compromise bill. We were voting on the original bill. Okay. So now that it has passed by 53%, mind you, that's
the original bill passed by 53% of the vote in Utah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So overwhelming support, pretty good, especially since originally the LDS Church came out telling their members not to vote for it. So they got together with the legislature and wrote a compromise bill, which a religion getting in there and helping draft legislation, for one, is just plain wrong. They shouldn't be in there. And of course they have a right to put out their opinion or whatever, like everybody else does. But to actually be involved in the writing of the bills, I think is totally wrong. And it's been happening for years and years. Like the first time I've ever heard of it happening, I was reading a newspaper article. I was on lunch and reading the newspaper, and I seen where they said, well, the LDS Church came in, they don't want this bill to go through, so it's not going to pass. And I'm like, what? That's the first time I ever heard of the LDS Church. But it's been happening forever and ever. But that was the first time it dawned on me that they are actually in there helping write legislation or mixing it, or it has to be approved through them before they'll pass it. So it's just insane that they have any say in that whatsoever. But they made the deal before it went up to a vote. So basically, whether or not the people voted for it, they were going to draft the compromise bill. Mm-hmm. So the compromise bill changes a lot of it. For one, it takes away the provision that you can grow within, if you're not within 100 miles of a dispensary. So they're only planning on having 10 dispensaries
in the whole state.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
And it's going to take a long time to even do that because of the seed to sell tracking. I haven't had a chance to really read the bill, unfortunately, because I've been so busy the last 2 days. The proposed compromise bill, and it just was put out there not very long ago. So unfortunately, but I did get some highlights. Read 5 articles this morning, trying to narrow it down. Yeah.
What's the first one you want to look at?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even write them down. I think the first one at the top of the list, I think, talks a little bit about it. But I wrote down the key points.
Utah's medical marijuana initiative is about to get swapped out with a compromise bill in the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this bill, and to everybody watching, I'll put these articles in the show notes so you can go over them yourself to anybody that's watching. This one was from the Cannabis Business Times, and this came out November 15th. And they're saying on Utah's Capitol, lawmakers are finalizing a bill that would replace Proposition 2. I'm assuming that's the proposition that passed. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The medical marijuana ballot initiative approved by voters last week. Thursday morning, Fox 13 learned TRUCE and others have retained attorney Rocky Anderson and are threatening a lawsuit over the involvement of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has had in the Utah legislature. Okay, so then that's significant. So really, and you sent me another article that this is going to kind of test the political clout of the Latter-day Saints.
The church, yeah.
So what do you see happening here? How do you see this playing out?
I see the church getting their way. I see it's pretty much a delay tactic because of the taking out the one provision. I think that's the biggest takeaway from the new legislation is the grow your own is out. Like you can't grow your own at all, period. So, and then the seed to sell, where they have to develop a tracking system to track every seed that's planted, to track every plant that's sold and all that, which is going to be a nightmare. And they don't want it to go into place. They don't want to build the dispensaries until that happens. And meanwhile, all those patients are going to be out of luck, except for there is a, what do they call it? Affirmative defense that takes effect December 1st, which means that eligible medical cannabis patients would not likely be prosecuted even if it was bought illegally. But operative words, not likely. Okay, so they're going to make them give up their dealer in order to not be prosecuted. That's my guess. And let's see. And eligible medical cannabis patient, I mean, so you basically have to go across the state to Nevada or Colorado and get a prescription and then come back with it and transport across state lines. I mean, this new compromise gets an F rating from one of the top medical marijuana advocacy groups, because it's really not going to help anybody. It's still going to be illegal. You can't go to your doctor and get a prescription for it as of December 1st, even though it's technically legal if you're an eligible patient. They're not going to be able to set up all these dispensaries till 2020, even if then. I don't think they're going to be able to do that tracking even in 2 years. I mean, that's almost impossible. And taking away the grow your own is ridiculous, because that just all the rural people,
right,
poor people in rural areas, they're not going to be able to have access to it. So
it's so preposterous on a lot of levels. First of all, you're denying patients something that can help them. And, we've seen before the pharmaceutical industry has tried to block medical marijuana in various states. And also, it's so ridiculous that we're outlawing a plant. I mean, it's so...
Right?
I mean, what's next? If somewhere in the Bible it says that spinach was the devil's leaf, are we going to outlaw spinach? Or, I mean, what is
wild lettuce? Wild lettuce is altering to your mentality and everything, and it grows naturally everywhere. How are they going to outlaw that? And there's kratom that they're already trying to get rid of and list as one of those, what do they call it? Class. You know what I mean, though.
Yeah,
up with cocaine,
narcotics or whatever.
Yeah. That.
So, do you think? In this other article, you sent the medical marijuana advocacy group threatens the lawsuit. Do you think? How successful do you think they will be?
I really don't know. I'm hoping that they'll have a good case on it, just because the voters voted for one proposal and they want to change that. So that's kind of going against the voters, which is in the Utah Constitution, that the voters can help, with the legislation and vote things in. I don't know the exact wording of how that is in the Utah Constitution, but in one of those articles about that, the one where Rocky Anderson was explaining the case they have, and it is against the Constitution to change that initiative after the voters have already voted on it. So and overwhelmingly voted on it. So I think he probably has a good case. I love Rocky Anderson. He used to be Salt Lake City mayor.
Oh, really?
And yeah, he's my husband worked for him because he works for Salt Lake City, and he was so proud that that was his boss, because super strong with unions and everything. He's a really good mayor. So and he's an attorney, so I'm really hoping he can do something with it. I hope they follow through with it, for one. But he's representing not only TRUCE, which is a Utah medical marijuana advocacy group, but also the Epilepsy Association of Utah is also in on that. So, and you know how good cannabis is for epilepsy. And that's been the big fight of how we even got CBD oil here, is because of the epilepsy and how it helps that.
Why wouldn't you want to? It blows me away. If you call yourself, family
value state.
That's family value state, and you are devout in your religious practice. You don't want to help someone that has epilepsy?
Oh no, but that doesn't matter if it helps. It's just it's a drug, and they're against all drugs. You can't poison your body, poison your temple, as they call it. Your body is a
prescription drugs, LDS?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
We have one of the largest prescription drug epidemics, like abuse epidemics and deaths in the country. It's a huge problem here. And if they legalize marijuana, that would cut that down tremendously. And I don't know. I've tried
I don't know now, Chris, let's be fair. Every year there are thousands of people that OD on marijuana. Oh, wait, no. That's wrong.
Wait.
I'm thinking of the other drugs. No one has ever OD'd on marijuana. The number of OD deaths from marijuana is zero. Look right at the
I know.
There. Zero to any of the viewers in Utah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just, it's frustrating here because they already have like crazy control over liquor sales, and that you have to go to liquor stores that are far away. They're only open certain hours. They're never open on Sunday. And if you just want a bottle of wine or something, you have to go to the liquor store. So you're forced to buy the 3.2% beer in grocery stores, which sucks bad. I kind of like beer once in a while. And when I want to buy it, and I want the good stuff. I don't want that crap. And I like wine. I love wine with dinner. So having to go to a liquor store is really inconvenient, and it's super expensive. Utah liquor stores are outrageously priced. When I go to Nevada or Idaho or Wyoming, I go to their liquor stores instead, because they're much better.
So that's the thing that a lot of people in Utah do. They just drive across the border and buy better liquor and bring it back to their house.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they get better beer for sure. So why not? If you're out of state anyway, that's what you're going to do. Same thing with lottery tickets and all that. I mean, all those other states are getting the money that Utah could have for like the lottery tickets for education. Yet they wanted all the gas tax. I'm going to talk about the other initiatives too. But the gas tax didn't pass, thank goodness. So we talked about that last time, I believe, at the very end. People are smart enough to know they weren't going to use it for education anyway. They just wanted, they put it in the wording so you could use it for whatever you wanted, but that didn't pass, so thank goodness. Let's see, I just want to make sure we got all over the...
Well, it's interesting, while you're checking that, the other articles, I mean, the founding fathers are very clear here about its separation of church and state. And a religious organization is more than, they have the right to say we are, for or against this piece of legislation. They can do that just like any organization can. Like the Sierra Club can say we're for or against this or whatever. But to then go in and try to actually write laws, especially laws that have already been passed by a majority of the people in the state, that just is completely undermining democracy just because you want your thing your way. And
or just even having the access to the legislatures and the lawmakers in the state. They have a lot more access than I would have to put across the majority of the people do, and to write it after we already voted on a proposition. That doesn't...
It's not right. It's just flat out not right. Like, if you want to try to get involved in the writing of the proposition before it goes to to ballot, okay. I mean, that's what lobby groups do, I guess. But after it's passed, why do they get to just change the laws of democracy in the state of Utah because they don't like the fact that 53% of citizens in that state want medical marijuana?
Yeah, they think, well, that's what they're trying to do. So that's, this is bad. But yeah, the other thing, they want to limit, of course, they're limiting the 10 dispensaries, but they're going to be run by the health department. So it will be kind of like, what do you call it? The liquor stores, the state-run liquor stores would be kind of like that. They said that there'd be select few private dispensaries, but they have to be called pharmacies, not dispensaries.
Right.
And they have to be run by licensed pharmacists. And what else? Oh yeah, they can't have candies or edibles.
Really?
Yeah, they can, but at the same time, you can have little, which I consider an edible, the little square gummies. And that's kind of an edible, so I don't understand. They can have lozenges, but not that. Or that was allowed in the other one. But the grow your own, I think, is the biggest thing, because it blocks people from having access to it from December 1st, because they're not allowed to grow your own. So because there's no dispensaries open, there's no legal way to get it, except for going across the lines. But you're not supposed to transport across the border, so there really is no legal way to get it. You have to already be someone who has prescriptions that maybe you got in another state and moved to Utah in order to get out of the being prosecuted for it. So yeah, if they allowed the grow your own as of December 1st, you'd be able to grow your own because no one has a dispensary within 100 miles of them.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest block to that bill, or that initiative, whatever, compromise to Prop 2. So that was a big failure.
Well, what's so hypocritical about this is if an organization like TRUCE was trying to change a law that had already been passed, they would be going insane. Like LDS would be going completely nuts. Like, let's say this didn't pass. Let's say 53% of the people voted against Proposition 2, and then TRUCE was in there trying to change it. That would be be right either.
But they said they would pass it either way, no matter how the people voted. They would do the compromise bill, but they really weren't under any obligation to actually do it if it didn't pass. And since they were still pushing people not to vote for it, that tells me that if the people didn't vote for it, that they would have just nixed it.
Right. So let me ask you this then, to any people that are watching this that are actually in Utah, what can they do?
You can call Governor Herbert and let him know that you want the initiative that was passed by the people in its original form to be put into law, not the compromise bill. And that just overwhelm your representatives and Governor Herbert and let them know you want the one we voted for, not the compromise bill. The compromise bill is just going to delay. It won't be till 2020, if that we even get access to it. So we want the original bill and we want access to it now. So
that's all you need to say, folks. Call and email the governor, and also find out who your state representatives are, not your federal senators and congresspeople, but your state representatives, and contact them. Google what district you're in, who your state representatives are in Utah. I guarantee you will find out what district you're in, because it's probably a different district than your congressional district. And then contact your state representatives and say, we want the original law, the proposition as the voters voted for, and demand it, and go to town hall meetings and speak up and get vocal. And I don't know, I'm sure you could probably donate to TRUCE to help pay for this lawsuit too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And the Epilepsy Association of Utah as well. So if you have any relatives with epilepsy, I do. That's a good one to help out too, to get this through. So
yeah, go to the Epilepsy Foundation in Utah. But even you know, you don't have to even have a relative. It's just, don't you want people with epilepsy to have access?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't mean to say that. I'm just like, that would affect people, you know, and a lot of people have epilepsy here. I have a brother and a sister-in-law, both have epilepsy.
Wow.
So it affects a lot of people. I think a lot of it has to do with the mining here, is why a lot of people have epilepsy here. So probably why there's an association for it in Utah. But well, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, so anybody out there watching, if you live in Utah, obviously you've got some stuff you can do to help protect Proposition 2 that was passed by 53% of the voters. And if you have any friends or family that live in Utah, I would share this video with them and let them know what's happening.
Good idea.
There's links to all these articles in the show notes below, folks, so you can get even more information from these various news outlets in Utah. So they have their ear to the ground about specifically what's going on, and you can. It's a way to get involved, because, you know, showing up at the polls and voting for progressive propositions is great, but then we got to make sure they get passed through, because this is what happens. This is what religious organizations do. This is what, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we found the pharmaceutical industry's money or fingerprints all over this, trying to undermine Proposition 2 as well, because it's.
Oh, I'm sure. Money. I'm sure they're getting a lot of money. The legislatures are getting a lot of money, and they're probably even getting some from the church in one form or another. I wouldn't doubt that at all. They're pretty much a business, so they operate several businesses. They own several businesses, so I'm sure all their businesses are supporting all the legislatures, and that's probably why they get a lot of what they want. Mm-hmm. That's my guess. So
this is also a religion that has the horrifying two-witness rule, where if a child or an adult comes forward and says, I was abused by LDS priest, the church says there need to be two witnesses to verify it. And gee, we all know that predators love having witnesses around when they abuse a child. So it's a preposterous law.
Also the one that does interviews with 8-year-old kids and asks them sexual questions. Like if they touch themselves and stuff like that, they and there was recently a guy that was protesting that, and he got excommunicated from the church because he was protesting that and trying to get that changed. So they didn't do that to 8-year-olds.
I did a video, I think like a year ago or maybe less, I don't remember, about the two-witness rule, and I just found this piece of information, this article, and I just did a video on it like I do all the time. And I found all of these people who were former LDS and former Mormons. They came out, they retweeted the video, and many of them were, the comment section in that video was heartbreaking, because there's all these people saying, you know, I was abused, or my brother was abused and he ended up committing suicide, because adult survivors of abuse have a high suicide rate. Male and female males have an even higher suicide rate than females do. Not that there's any sort of competition, but it just shows you how awful that can be. And I just saw this article and did it. And then all of these people saying, look, here's a LDS guy telling our story. And a lot of these people said they were excommunicated. So, I mean, I have some serious issues with this church, let alone them trying to undermine a bill that was passed. 53% of the voters voted for it. That's it. You lost. I don't get to go to the state of California, and even though Proposition 10 lost, I don't get to then
renegotiate it,
and then like I got to go through the whole process of getting signatures and putting it on another election, and I got to go through that. Why do I get to just do that? You know, like Kenneth Mejia, I wish he would have won, but he lost. Does he get to just get a bunch of money behind him and go renegotiate the election that he lost and get put into Congress? Does he get to do that? I mean, it's preposterous.
It is preposterous. Yeah. There's a lot about that church and their control. And I really wouldn't be surprised if eventually they come out to be even worse than the Catholic Church as far as abuse goes, with their bishops and everything. The way they scorn people who are homosexual or anything, and So they do the same thing, the conversion therapy and all that. And so there's a lot of Mormon men that are hiding, you know, their real sexuality, and that kind of causes mental problems. And then they, you know, they go to the vulnerable, the kids, and yet they say the homosexuals are the abusers, and that's why they don't want them in the church, but they're creating their own problem. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not accurate, you know.
No, it's not.
Children are not homosexuals.
That's true. That's true.
Different thing. And you know, having been raised Catholic, I know the power of a church. I've seen the Catholic Church exert its power and its money and influence in cities like Chicago and Boston and Baltimore and stuff, where they have, you know, you watch that movie Spotlight, or you watch that Netflix documentary series The Keepers, you see the power. And LDS is doing this in Utah. They have the same kind of power and the same abuses of power and the same cover-ups and everything like that. You see what they do. The cops, the lawyers, the judges, everybody's in on it, you know, and it's pretty horrifying, you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just have to correct my language there. I didn't mean to say that homosexuals are pedophiles and it's forcing them into it. It's just there's a lot of people that hide their orientation because of the church, right. And that causes other issues, but not necessarily pedophilia. But they have bishop meetings with single women who are getting divorced and stuff like that too. And there's been cases where they've been abused in meetings with bishops and stuff like that, yeah. or even young men. So it's more than just the pedophiles. There's abuses all across the board. And if the women stand up for themselves, they have to go to this council. It's like a court for the church, and they'll just be blasted, yep. You know, and then they'll be scorned by everyone in their church. And there's horrifying stories about even the women being abused.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine and the thing that, you know, from doing, you know, this show Political Vigilante, the pattern is always the same. There's this powerful structure, this powerful organization that has all this influence and control, and there's all these abuses happening within it, and then they do whatever they can to cover it up. I mean, whatever they can. The Catholic Church has spent tens of millions of dollars smearing victims. They hired so-called experts to say that repressed memories, because a lot of people they were abused as children. The brain literally locks off the abuse memory because it's too traumatic. Because especially when you're a child, the brain is still developing. So the brain literally can't handle the memory. So the brain, as a survival technique, locks it, seals it off, and puts it
right.
And then the memories come forward as an adult. And the Catholic Church, the Catholic Archdiocese, spent tens of millions of dollars to say, oh, this doesn't happen. They're just having crazy nightmares. It's not true. And
they don't know enough detail, but yeah. I mean, when
crazy
you have those memory flashbacks will come back at little bits and pieces, you know, and you don't see the whole picture. You just have a flashback, and you can know who it is and remember certain things, but there's other details that you just are gone from your memory.
You don't remember them, but you know on a cellular level that person abused me. You know it.
Yep.
Oh yeah. From personal experience, you know it.
Me too. Me too.
It's like, but then they try to discount it. I mean, I mean, look at Penn State University. I always use that as an example. And again, it's money and power.
Right.
That big football program that brings in billions of dollars. They covered that up. They covered Sandusky up for 13 years. Paterno knew about it. The administrator, the athletic directors, they all knew about it. And they covered it up because it's a threat to their power structure. It's the same. I mean, it's just look what they're. I mean, I don't think I'm connecting an outlandish dot here when I say look at Julian Assange. He's threatening the powerful. They make him out to be. I mean, they've accused him of rape. They've done everything they possibly can.
You have to try to get rid of him because he's putting out the truth on both sides, and so the establishment wants him gone. And it's just sad. I just wish we could do something more to help him. I mean,
Well, the Julian Assange thing is horrifying, and we're trying to do everything we can. But getting back to Proposition 2, you know, we are trying to do something. You're trying to do something. You're doing your own channel, The Natural Progressive, which I highly suggest people check out. You're a supporter of my show, and you're bringing us in. I didn't know this about. I knew Proposition 2 passed, but I didn't know that this was happening. So you're telling. We're having this conversation on my show, so now a wider audience knows about it. So that's all we are doing something about it. We're not just sitting back.
I can't just sit back. I just can't.
We can't. And is this video going to change what's happening in Utah? I don't know. But at least we
may change a mind or two and get more people, get the ball rolling.
Yep.
Maybe.
If it gets the ball rolling, then we've done something. If one person watches this video and picks up the phone and calls the governor in Utah and says, hey,
what's going on here?
It's one person more than what was going to happen. So, and one becomes 2, becomes 5, becomes 20, becomes 100, becomes 1,000. So that's all we can do.
Just a little snowball that starts the avalanche. That's what I'm hoping. Well, everybody's got to be a snowball. Everybody
has to be that little snowball and just push it down the hill and see what happens.
Right. That's the plan.
Well,
I don't know.
Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, and thank you for supporting my show. It means the world to me. And everybody check out Natural Progressive. And
all of our videos are on my on a playlist. So, and I'll add this one to it also after it's up. So
cool.
Great.
Well, yeah, you can watch all of our past interviews on her playlist, on mine, whatever. Subscribe, like, and subscribe. Those little things. Those are also great free ways to help support shows like yours and mine. And I tell people, like, I take the audio from all this and I put it on iTunes as well. You can listen to this, whatever format works best for you. And likes, subscribes, downloads, all of those metrics help us in the long run. So you're supporting independent media by doing it. So Chris, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And I know you're tired from cooking 2 back-to-back Thanksgivings from Thursday and Friday because you have a big family.
Yeah, exhausted. Yeah. So great. Thank you, Graham, for allowing me this opportunity.
Cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember, make Gotham great again.